Hello, this is the HAARP Report, and I'm going to show strong proof or evidence of ionospheric heaters and other technology used to destroy this hurricane Lane before it hit Hawaii in August 2018. So this is a water vapor view. You can see as it approaches the island, it gets literally blown apart and it tries to reform a couple of times. This is almost certainly due to the ionospheric heater at Pearl Harbor on Oahu. So they had to bring it into the island close enough to be able to blow it apart. And you can see at the beginning of the video there's a strong eye wall, circular, and then it becomes this white blob, which I'm sure is photoshopped, and then it's literally blown apart. So there are two technologies that the U.S. military now has to do this sort of weather control. First is the ionospheric heaters, of course, which is a powerful microwave beam that's pinpoint computer controlled, can be changed in direction every few millionths of a second. And the new technology is these mini-subs, which can project a gravity beam up into the atmosphere. And I have really strong evidence of this, but I'm not going to talk about this brand new weather weapon. But these hurricanes can now be steered and parked and started and stopped for financial and political reasons. The financial reasons are the weather futures options. So maybe Hawaii has not paid their you know, weather futures contracts that guard against flooding. Maybe they did pay something to protect against wind damage. So here we don't get wind damage with this operation, but we're getting tremendous flooding. And so let's discuss why in nature this hurricane could just disappear like this. So the reasons for a hurricane to suddenly dissipate would be number one, cool surface waters. So let's look at the sea surface temperature map and see if there's a pocket of cool water around Hawaii. So as you can see here around Hawaii, over here on the left, real small, you can see it's just solid red. And judging by that red, it looks to be 85, 87 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry to the metric people, but I'm not going to try and convert that, being that I'm an ignorant American. So let's look at in closer. So you can see around Hawaii, it's really homogeneous. So it did not hit a pocket of cool water. So we can eliminate point number one. So it wasn't cool surface waters. What about point number two? Shallow ocean water will exhaust the water heat content before, and it's much more likely that this will happen if the storm stops moving and is churning in one spot. So let's look at the depth of the ocean right around Hawaii. Here's a seafloor map of Hawaii, and we know the eye of the hurricane was down in this area here around the Hawaiian Arch. So gee, I wonder how deep that is. Maybe it's 30, 40 feet. Nope, it's about 15,000 feet. And here's a mountain that's 10,000 feet deep. So point number two is not why the hurricane dissipated. Point number three, another reason that it could suddenly disappear, strong jet stream shears off the top of the eye wall. So let's look at the jet stream during this time period. So here's the jet stream as Hurricane Lane approached Hawaii, and you can see when it's down south of the island, the jet stream's about 35 knots, 3.5 bars. As it gets closer, it's about, look, 15 bars, 25 knots. So the jet stream didn't actually change as the hurricane center of low pressure approached the islands. What about the mid layers? So the jet stream, we're looking at 30,000 feet. So now let's look at 18,000 feet or 500 millibars and see what happens. Basically, there's no wind. There's no wind in the mid layers of the atmosphere as it approaches the island. Here it cycles. So there's no shearing in the mid layers either. Here's a sea level wind map for the time in question. And it's see, when the circles are packed like that, that's powerful wind. Powerful surface wind where those isobars are close together, lines of equal pressure. So you can see before it approaches Oahu is a strong wind, strong eye, and then as it approaches, and then boom, right there, it's gone. The surface wind is gone and absolutely mysterious. So we know from those jet stream and wind maps that point number 3 did not occur. The strong jet stream shears off the top of the eye wall and the low pressure. That did not happen in this case. So the last point, point 4, high pressure forms over the eye of the hurricane in the upper jet stream, stopping the convection, robbing the eye wall of energy. This never happens in nature. It's only possible using the ionospheric heaters and gravity beam technology. In other words, the top secret U.S. Navy weather weapons. So let's look at the evidence for that. Before we go any further, I need to clarify that the ionospheric heater can only control the jet stream in the daytime when this electron-rich layer forms in the ionosphere about 30 miles up at the bottom of the D layer. So we need to convert universal coordinated time to Hawaiian Aleutian Daylight Time, and that offset is minus 09. But let me just put a 0 in here and convert. It comes out of 15, so that means 3 p.m. is 0, and if we go to 12 universal time converted, that's 3 a.m. So now we can go and look at the water vapor map again. So here is the hurricane eye approaching. Let me stop that and back up here. Okay, while it's out of range of the ionospheric heaters, go forward again. For one brief 30-minute interval, we actually see an eye. It's getting into range, which is only about 300 miles due to the curvature of the Earth and the height of the D layer above the Earth's surface. So that eye was right here, and as we step through, see it jump. Now look, now it popped up here. So the eye disappeared here and popped up here. Now we're going to look at the time and compare compare what the heck's going on. Yeah, this is stressful for me. You bet it is. Sacrificing my life to disclose this stuff. Here's the eye again. It's popped up again. So now we are looking for how about the next event. Now, if I was a meteorologist and I was looking at the satellite map, and I'm not a meteorologist, by the way, I'm an engineer, a radar engineer, I'd be irritated. Look, here, this bright white, saturated white. There's no information in a map like this. Why is it solid white like that? Because they're hiding. They're hiding in operation, where a bunch of circles and expanding donuts are occurring, and they cannot allow that to be seen. And okay, so here's the time down here at the bottom. It says 13. That's the time in UTC. So subtract 9, and that's going to be 4 a.m. So the ionospheric heater is not working at this time. Now we go ahead a little bit. 15. Why don't we go to 8 a.m., which is going to be right here. Now the D layer forms as the sunlight hits the atmosphere over Hawaii. Now they can start heating the ionosphere again and producing a high pressure on top of the hurricane. So let's step forward and see what happens. It takes a couple of hours with a storm this powerful. With a small thunderstorm, 30 minutes and poof, it's gone. So now we see it diminishing. So, and it's gone. 2300 minus 9 is 14, or 2 p.m. 2 p.m. the storm has been squashed and actually is disappearing here. Now we continue to where it's going to reappear. They're fighting it, they're fighting it. Now while they're doing this, okay, the D layer and the ionosphere is 30 miles up. The ozone layer is about 18 miles up. So they are punching an enormous hole in the ozone layer around Hawaii. This will kill all the coral, all the plankton, the phytoplankton, the microscopic plants, the zooplankton, the microscopic animals. This destroys the food chain and kills the coral. This type of ionospheric heater technology, because of the height difference. The hot gases from the D layer are punching through the ionospheric, the ozone layer. And ozone cannot exist in an electron-rich environment. That's why the ozone layer is always beneath the D layer of the ionosphere. So yeah, I need to make a video on that. It's huge, huge, because it explains so much of why the oceans are dying around the world. So let's continue to where it reappears here. Okay, so now the storm is reappearing and the time is 12. Back up about, okay, 1200 Zulu. The storms are reappearing, and this is at 3 a.m. Again, we could go back to the time converter. At 1200, convert, it's 0300, 300 hours, 3 a.m. So we step through again, and this is daytime, storm builds again. Now 2400, it's vanished again. So that's 3 p.m. So if we go back to about 1800, here's 7 a.m. They attack it and it disappears. And it's really squashed this time. 06, 07. And it reforms again in another spot, because you can kill the high pressure aloft, 30,000 feet up, but the low pressure still exists at the surface, so it actually reformed out to the side. And again, that's, go back, 1200 is 3 a.m. So it takes a few hours for this convection to get reorganized again after the sun sets. Now let's look at it in visible light mode, and it becomes more obvious. So before the, here's visible light at 5 p.m. 02 universal is 5 p.m. So we see a well-defined eye. It's a real powerful hurricane and moving towards the islands. So when it's far off, there's absolutely no problem with disappearing in the daytime. Now let's track it as it goes. This is visible light, so now the sun's up, and as it's close enough now that it's looking real disrupted, and we get the saturated whites. There's no eye anymore. Instead you have this popcorn looking stuff, which I don't believe is real. And now the next day, 24th, it's much closer to the islands. Again, we have this popcorn looking stuff instead of an eye, and the day progresses. They're doing the ionospheric heater operation, and now we get this absolutely homogeneous cloud mass. And to me, that's fake. There's no way that nature produces a homogeneous cloud deck with something as violent and powerful as the uplift of a hurricane eye wall. So now the storm is gone mid-afternoon, and the sun is now starting to set. Yes, mysterious. So now we go to the next morning, and it's reformed overnight, building strength, but now they start the ionospheric heater operation again, and now you get the homogeneous, photoshopped clouds, and the storm's gone again. The upper level low is destroyed by the descending air from the ionospheric heater, heating the upper jet stream and pressing it down on top of the storm. But here to the left, we have a surface low spinning up. So as the sun sets on the 26th August, the hurricane itself has been destroyed by the Pearl Harbor ionospheric heater on Oahu, but now we have a surface low forming off to the west. So they have successfully flooded the islands, avoided wind damage for whatever weather futures contract profit was involved there, and now they've shoved the hurricane off to the left. And again, this may be photoshopped. We don't know what any of this looks like. So that's really my conclusion here, is that number 4, the high pressure, artificial man-made high pressure using descending air on the top of the jet stream, it forms over the eye and it stops the convection, robs the energy of the counterclockwise rising air, and I think that's what happened here, because that hurricane should have continued over this extremely warm water and raked those islands for some. I would have been another Katrina, only on top of these tiny islands that are very steep and prone to mudslides. So that's what I think. I hope this is information that's useful to people. But the U.S. military is doing a lot of stuff. And, someone needs to go out immediately now and measure the ultraviolet B level in this area. And you're going to find it off the charts, with all of the coral now being killed. Of course, it's very deep here, so it's just the plankton that's affected. I hope this is helpful to people. And I'm going to try and get some financial support through Patreon so I can make more of these videos. Otherwise, I just cannot spend the time doing this. So please support me if you think this is good information. And I really need to make a video talking about these mini-subs, classified above top secret U.S. Navy mini-subs that can project these gravity beams into the atmosphere. And the reason the Navy has shifted to this technology away from the ionospheric heaters is because the ionospheric heaters do a lot of damage to the ozone layer, whereas these mini-subs, they're really pulling on more of the more dense layers of the atmosphere rather than the D layer 30 miles up. Thank you for watching. Please support me on Patreon. Thanks a lot. Bye.